Welcome to Women's Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne. My mission is to educate, inspire, and empower you all to step into your own life of wealth. That feeling of being so rich in your mind, body, and soul. I'm so happy to have you here. Let's get straight into it. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Women's Wealth with me, your host, Joanne. And I'm going to get straight in with my guest today. I have an amazing guest. We've actually just been having a really good chat, and we're like, right, we need to record this. Let's get on with the podcast. So I have Dr. Elena with me today. Welcome, all the way in the US. And she is the founder of Safo Hair Care. And she's going to share her story, which we've just been chatting about today. I'm going to leave that up to her, though. So welcome, first of all. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I was enjoying our conversation as well. So hopefully this podcast will be as exciting as well.
We were just putting the world to rights before we pressed record. So we'll do that again. So let's get straight into the nitty-gritty and share a little bit of your story of how you became the founder of a natural hair care, because obviously you've just briefly told me as we were chatting, and yeah, it's interesting, it's exciting, and now you're a doctor and you're a woman who owns her own hair care business as well. So all of the things. So over to you.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I am a physician. I'm an ER physician, and which I've, worked hard to become, and I've enjoyed that role. And, during COVID, it kind of shifted the healthcare system here in the US, and I'm sure how it turned out on the other side in other countries, but, it also made me think a lot about like what we were doing to maintain our own health. And during this time, I had hyper vigilant about my health because I, in my early 30s was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, had fertility issues, and that's essentially put me in menopause at the age of 31. So I'm like, oh my God, no one told me about this. Like, what is this? What is happening? So it's something called premature ovarian failure. So basically, I'm going through all the hormonal stuff. Like my hair is falling out, it's breaking, the mood swings, the hot flashes, the up and down weight gain. And I'm just like trying to figure out a new body, right? So I had really started my own self-care journey at that point, doing a lot of yoga. I jumped into acupuncture, which I'm still an avid proponent of acupuncture. I feel like everyone's like, oh, that hocus pocus stuff. I'm like, well, it works for me. So I'm going to keep doing it, from like everything from like gut health to joint pains. I've gone for like headaches and sinus infections, and even a lot of my ovarian stuff, the hot flashes. I go for all of that, and it's been amazing. I've jumped into a lot of Ayurvedic practices, Ayurvedic diets that I've found to be really helpful. Just understanding the hormones and how it affects the body. And the crazy part is like, even as a physician, I didn't like really think about it, Plus I'm in my early 30s. I'm an ER doctor, so I don't work with hormones on a regular basis. But when all these things started happening, I was like, oh my God, my hormones are out of whack. And we don't think about that, right? Like you get some pimples on your face, your hair starts breaking off, starts thinning, your hips start getting a little wider, and you're like, oh my God, it's me. I must have eaten too much spaghetti last night or something. But, it really, our hormones affect everything, from our mental to our physical to our emotional to our overall just wellness. Like our hormones are involved at every point. And I, was being more intentional about what I'm putting in my body, but I had not thought about what I was putting on my body. And that's where I went down this journey of really wanting to think about and being more conscious of like how much I'm putting on my skin. Because, there's a lot of things we just cannot avoid. But what am I putting in my hair? And at certain points, I even thought maybe the hair care products I was using growing up might have affected some of this, but who knows? Like, I'll never know. So I wanted to make sure that I was creating a brand that was clean, sustainable, and really health conscious, health forward, I guess, or holistic. to make sure that I'm bringing safe and quality products to consumers and improving access to these products as well.
Wow, what there's a lot to. So when you were diagnosed, sorry, before you were diagnosed with cancer, did you ever consider, did you have any hormonal issues or anything going on before that? Were you just like everyone else, just slapping everything on here, there, and everywhere?
I wasn't thinking about it, right? Like I'm in my 20s, you don't think about stuff like that. But then as I thought back, I was like, wait, maybe there were moments where my periods were off, or they were longer, or they were shorter. And you don't think about that because we're not taught to think about that. And I think more about like my body balance and like listening to my body more. And as a teenager, you're not thinking about listening to your body. You're just trying to like get all the trendy stuff and do all the trendy things and like hang out with your friends. So I think that was one thing that I probably was not paying attention to, and maybe there were hormonal stuff going on early on.
Yeah. And was it the cancer itself that threw you into, I can't remember the medical name, the early menopause, or was it the treatment for the cancer? Or was
So
it
I
a bit of
never
both?
had treatment. So the thyroid
Okay.
cancer, I chose to just have it removed. So with the thyroid, your thyroid hormones are now gone, and then your thyroid hormones essentially kind of control your metabolism and a lot of things in the body. But I think the reproductive stuff was happening before the thyroid was removed. Like the timing of it was so hard for us to pinpoint that I don't really think it had anything to do with it, but it was just the timing of it kind of was like so weird. Um, but and kind of around the same time, so even my physicians are like, I don't know, maybe it was happening, who knows? They've run all the testing, and I'm just like, I don't know. So I never got treatment per se, as like you would think a cancer patient would get.
Yeah.
I chose to remove it by lymph nodes and stuff for biopsy, and they just had to be placed on thyroid hormone. So, as I'm going through getting my thyroid balanced out, like everything else is going off. So there's this whole hormonal system or access in the body. So once one hormone is thrown off, it throws the other hormones off as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like a brain to like, as women, it's all the way from the brain to the ovaries. We have this whole hormonal system, and then one hormone feeds off the other and the levels. And if this is off, then this is going to ramp up or go down. So like getting that thyroid level controlled was critical to like getting my weight controlled, getting my skin controlled, getting my hair controlled, my appetite, my mood. All of that was essential to getting the thyroid balance. And that took some time. I don't know if my thyroid ever got balanced for maybe a year. So that was tricky as well.
Gosh, I can imagine. You were kind of thrown into like a hormonal imbalance pool. A lot of women kind of have an idea that they might be off. And like you said, it could be weight, mood, skin, hair, but you were kind of thrown in at the deep end with
That's what
yeah,
it felt like.
just
All of the hormones.
um
And I tell people it
yeah,
was like, ah!
yeah, and yeah, crazy. So how did you, so we'll pull it all the way back. So you had the treat, you were on thyroid medication. Where did you start with your sort of natural self-care journey then to help you out? What was the first thing that you went for?
Acupuncture. And I went to
Acupuncture.
acupuncture first because that's what my doctor actually recommended. Um,
Ah,
Yes. So my doctor was like, you should go check her out. And I went to her, and I was going to her regularly. And as I'm going to her, I'm actually learning more because I never had to think about this. Like my
yeah,
self-care at the time when I was in my early 20s was I was always running, like running, running, running. And I was like, I was an avid runner. So I was like, oh, that's my self-care. I'm gonna go get some Burger King afterwards. And of course,
yeah,
your metabolism's high, so it's like it's fine. So, I throw some salads in there from time to time. But as I went to my acupuncturist, I learned so much about all these alternative medicine options, healthy eating options, and things like that. And I was introduced to, I started working with the meal prep planner, and from there, I was introduced to Ayurvedic practices. So I started digging more into that. So I'm doing acupuncture, then I start doing the Ayurvedic practices, and then, the Ayurvedic meals, I think dojas or whatever they're called,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you prepare your meals based off of the seasons or the season that you're in. So being mindful of that. And I started gardening. Growing my own vegetables and herbs. Like I was in it to win it, basically. And of course, I'm still working out. I'm not running as much, but I'm working out and then starting to like do more yoga in my everyday practice. And I really was like full on yogi head during the pandemic because it was easy to do at home. And
Yeah.
I found a lot of my mental health was improved with the yoga. So that was kind of nice. And then I started going to an integrative, I started learning about functional medicine and integrative medicine. And these are like just things that we as physicians aren't taught in Western medicine, really
Yeah.
delving into like Eastern medicine practices, and just being mindful of that. But I also am a physician, so I'm also mindful of like the things that I'm herbal things that I'm taking and putting in my body, and how that we also can't really regulate a lot of that, and how that will interact with hormones at certain times and even my hormone medications. So I was very mindful of like vitamins and herbs, and I didn't really get much into like the ingestion of all of that because of my Western medicine knowledge.
Yeah.
I just started really studying it a lot more, and then that really led me down this path of like, well, why are we not putting this in our hair? So
Yeah.
that's what I started.
Yeah. I was just going to ask actually, as you were talking, from being in obviously Western medicine, you've got universities, degrees, and then we have Eastern medicine, which, you don't need any of that. And some of it is just, it comes from like, you don't need to go to university to study Ayurveda, for example. You can just, you read about it, you learn. And do you see that in Western medicine, now you've come from both sides, there is a lack of what they use in Eastern medicine, would you say? Do you think there should be more of an overlap, or would it be nice if that was the case? You
It would
know?
be lovely if there was more overlap, but I don't think there's money in Eastern medicine. So, there would have to be a lot of integration into the curriculum of the training that we go
Yeah,
through as physicians to bring it in. There's also not a lot, I haven't seen a lot of studies to prove some of this Eastern medicine practices,
yeah,
even though it's been done for like centuries and millennium. I actually am from Alabama, so it's the southern part of the US, so very southern. And my family's been there for at least 200 years. And I don't know if people know this, but like before the practice of like Western medicine was like what it is today, like over a century ago, we used to treat ourselves medicinally. Like the
yeah,
Native Americans that were here had their own system and way of treating and practicing, and people from the continent of Africa were doing this already with medicine doctors. So a lot of those traditions were brought over to the US, and some of them were married with some of the Native American traditions, and those carried on for centuries here.
yeah,
And it wasn't up until recently that we started like looking down or shunning those practices. So I remember even as a kid, like my grandmother, there were things that we would do or take or use to like prevent illnesses or treat illnesses, just because of my family tradition. So even some of
yeah,
that sticks with me.
yeah.
So it's not too far removed, honestly. And I wouldn't call it Eastern medicine. I would just call it traditional medicine.
Traditional, yeah, and natural medicines, plant
Natural.
medicines, and yeah, having if you have a sore throat, instead of reaching for, I don't know, Lemsip, that who knows, are there any lemons in a Lemsip? But just having the knowledge of, yes, I grow my own lemons. You've got your herb garden, going down to the herb garden, getting some fresh peppermint leaves and rosemary, and making your own concoction rather than
Yeah,
reaching for
yeah.
these chemicals. And do you
And I
find
do.
yourself telling your patients on the, are you allowed to do that actually? If
I don't tell them, but if they tell me they're doing X, Y, and Z, I'll sometimes share like sometimes
yeah,
this has worked for me, but I'm not telling you to do this. But
yeah,
a lot of times I'm in the emergency room, so things are a lot more critical and emergent, and those aren't really
yeah,
the place to talk about herbal
yeah,
stuff. Like you need to take your blood pressure
yeah,
medication. There's no plant out there that's gonna help you with this. Like there's times for medicines and Western medicine. So it's
Yeah,
easy for me to draw the line, and very rarely even ever do I talk to patients about that. I do mention acupuncture quite a bit,
yeah,
especially with patients who are having pains and stuff. I'm like, you should check out acupuncture. It's probably
yeah.
better than all these opioids we're giving you right now, you know? So
On a side note, just a side note. Yeah.
safer.
Yeah. So when you so you have the experience, I guess, and the need in your own life after going through all of that for the natural hair care. Um, so you have the story to tell. So I just think if people are asking, you have that there and say, look, this is what I've been through. You've learned how to listen to your body coming from an illness, connecting with your body. And like you say, yoga is perfect for that. You learn so much. Like I'm a yoga teacher, so I'm a little bit biased about yoga, but the same as what you said, I learned so much just about my own body and how does this feel and what does this feel like? What's going on here? And you sort of tune into, okay, this doesn't feel good today, or there's something going on. And just having that mind body breath connection really, I don't know, it was a game changer for me as well. Just then thinking, okay, so I'm physically looking after my body. This is helping me look after my mind. I'm learning how to breathe properly. And I think then naturally you're then sort of, okay, so what am I putting into my mouth now? What am I putting onto my skin? What is my body absorbing? Because otherwise, all of this other work is going to waste.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the formula? What research did you do? What did you learn about what goes onto our scalps and going into our bodies?
Yeah, so so my I guess you would call it uni or university. So my
Yes, yeah.
undergrad training was chemistry. So I have a chemistry degree. And I think during the pandemic, I really started like digging in more about like all of these like herbs and like all these other things. And there were some that I was like, this absolutely has to go in my hair because I'm having major hair issues. And I'm like looking for products that have these things in them, can't find any, right? So I actually found a cosmetic chemist who has a PhD in all of this stuff, who used to work for a really big company, and we just started working together. And I tell her what I want in the products, what I want the products to do from my research, and she's the one with a little bit more of the technical expertise that can figure out the percentages and like what
Yeah,
else needs to go in it to make sure it's safe, and it's going to do what it does, and it has a little bit of a shelf life. So, she's the one that brings the additional science expertise to the process. So I have formulated with her all of the products, so you won't find anything like them on the market. So I don't white label. I don't like pull things from a company that puts out which I learned this. I'm like, there's a lot of brands out there that just use the same formulas over and
yeah,
over again, but put a different label on it. Like I didn't want that. I wanted to know what was in my product. I wanted to be hands-on. I wanted to smell every iteration, taste it, not taste it, but feel it. We're not
yeah,
tasting it. Feel it, feel it, and like actually see how it works on my hair, and then have my friends and family also try it out and get feedback. And then once we did that, it goes through a battery of testing. We make sure that the uh, we get the stamp for dermatology
yeah,
approval, make sure nothing's hypoallergenic. And then, we've even gone the extra step to get like review for like the clean beauty stamp. So we wanted to make sure, because there are 1,100 ingredients that are banned in the EU, but allowed
mm,
in the US that have been proven to cause or thought to cause cancer, breast cancer, uterine cancer, fibroids, fertility issues. So I wanted to make sure that I'm following the highest standards that we could
yeah,
potentially follow. So yeah.
yeah. I was actually I saw something else about US. There was I think within foods, a list
Yeah.
of things that are banned elsewhere, but they're not actually banned in the US.
Oh
So you guys over there have got
yeah.
it tough.
Yeah, we were talking about this. Yeah, like our
Yeah,
our restrictions on food products and consumer good ingredients are like sometimes it feels like a free for all.
Yeah,
There was just something recently that they were saying like there's been so many like GI illnesses because we've had so many like bacterias and viruses in our foods. And I
yeah.
guess there's, I don't know, maybe things aren't regulated the way they should be and they are in
Yeah,
other countries.
yeah. It gave an example of the ingredients in tomato sauce, ketchup. So in the UK, maybe there was five, and then there was a huge list for the US, and bread was another example. I think there was another, oh, Fanta. But I noticed when I went to America, the Fanta orange is glow in the dark in the US. In the UK, it's a normal orange. But I was like, whoa, I
Insides
wonder
are
if that.
probably glowing in the dark too.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. I didn't realize it was the same with the beauty products as well. So I know that I don't know if this was worldwide or maybe in the EU, but even there hasn't been a new, oh, I can't remember what. So there's still ingredients that haven't been checked over and given a full-on safe stamp since I think it was 1938. So we're still putting these things on our bodies that they didn't even know in 1938 if it was okay. But because it's just gone, and it's mostly feminine products as well, it's kind of
Oh,
just goes under the radar. You're just like, oh, it's okay. And they just don't put them on the label. I'm sure you know that as well. Like, it's just, they just miss it off. It's
there was
fine.
an article or a lawsuit or something about the tampons that we have here that had arsenic in it, even the organic ones. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's really important to find, like I said, products like yourself, the clean beauty, they have that stamp, and you can actually find the source and read about where the products are coming from and, read the labels on your products because what are you putting into your skin? If there's a whole list, and I always like if there's a list of things and I can't say the words, I'm not a scientist and some of them that might be okay, but if it's a huge list, I'm like, right, absolutely not. And if anything ends in paraben, do not go for it because they're going to disrupt your hormones, disrupt your endocrine system, and it should not be going anywhere near an open pore. Um, so your products then, what is the main aim? So is it for growth? Just obviously, I know I was telling you about my own hair care journey. I have mentioned it on the podcast before, like growing my hair, growing out all of this damage, looking after my scalp, stimulating the hair follicles, all of the things. So is
So
that what you're?
we wanted to we want to make sure that we are thinking about the hair from the root to the tip. So
Yeah.
we started with like a maintenance scalp health products basically. So we have a scalp serum that's really awesome, full of herbal natural ingredients to really help hair growth and make the scalp healthy, reduce inflammation, reduce dandruff, reduce itching, any pain, because some people have pain, but there's
Mhm.
also some growth properties with some of the herbal products that we have. So people are seeing some hair growth with it, but more so a healthier scalp. And then we have moisturizers to kind of help with that dry, brittle hair. Some people are using the serums as like kind of on the tips and ends of the hair
Yeah.
to kind of keep the ends moisturized. I love the serum on my scalp. I don't use it as much on my hair. And then we have a scalp stimulator or scalp spray, and that specifically is to help stimulate the follicles as far as like improving blood flow, getting more nutrients to the follicles so they can grow healthier. And that spray is mostly for people with like thinning and balding spots.
Yeah.
And then we have like products for the hair itself to kind of make the hair stronger, reduce split ends, frizz, because that's also part of why someone's hair isn't looking as healthy and full because by the time it gets halfway down the length, it starts breaking and shedding, and then you
Mm.
get this hair that's like
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
nasty. So
I'm hearing that. I'm actually having a trim tomorrow because after 3 weeks in Bali and I didn't take my usual shampoo with me, so I honestly my hair and the humidity, and I didn't use any heat, which was really good. I know that's really good for the hair, but I have straight fine hair, and in Bali I had curly, thick, big hair. I was like,
So
what
it's
is
important that we focus on our scalp. Like,
I am just interrupting this transmission to bring you a little bit of chihuahua and to remind you, and Dorothy wants to remind you, to please like and subscribe. So if you're finding yourself coming to my channel often, if you like what you hear, like what you see, every single like, every single subscription really, really means the world to me. I am planting this podcast seed, YouTube seed, with my bare hands from scratch. At the moment, that I am the editor, the creator, the director, the presenter. So every single little bit of support really means the world to me. It means that I can get on some more amazing guests, grow my podcast, grow my little YouTube studio, so that I can bring more of what you like to hear. So thank you, and get back to the
we
episode.
put so
Yeah,
much attention on our skin, on our face, and like neglect the scalp, and it's just an
yeah,
extension of the skin, you know? So I
exactly.
think in order to maintain healthy hair, you have to maintain it at the root and make sure you have a
Yeah,
healthy scalp. And then once you get that hair growing, maintaining and keeping that hair
yeah.
strong.
And if there's anyone listening to this, any ladies who have noticed a change in their hair, obviously you've been thrown into your hormonal imbalance in the early menopause, how can that affect your hair? So we always blame products and, but could it be, is it coming from the inside out? Is it a hormonal thing? What kind of things
I
should
always
we be looking out
I
for?
always tell people like to check in with your body, like be mindful, like listen to your body. And not everyone does that. And
Mm.
it takes work to listen to the body, but I think it's so rewarding. So if you're starting to notice changes, start doing a check. Is it food? Is it diet? Is something changing? Is it stress? And then stress will do it too, but stress will also throw your hormones off. So just
Yeah,
kind of do like a life check to see what's going on, what's different. And what I would tell people is like if they do think it's hormonal, like you can go to your doctor and they can check certain levels of your hormones. Like your thyroid could be off. Thyroid is known to like really do damage on the hair, like thinning, brittle, breakage, especially if those levels are like off balance.
yeah,
And then once you've gotten those levels checked and you see that your hormone is off balance, then your doctor's going to go down this rabbit hole figuring out where on this axis are these hormones the problem. And there could be replacements, or there could be just maybe you need to reduce your stress and go see acupuncturist. So it just depends, but just being mindful and knowing that something is off is that first step to figuring out what it
yeah,
is and getting things put back in balance.
yeah, amazing. So where can my listeners find your products and you?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
I
I
will put
am
everything, yeah, I will put everything in the show notes, but of
So
course.
I am physically in Boston, Massachusetts. So if anyone's ever in Boston, come check us out. We don't have a physical store, but we're partnered with some boutiques here. One in Cambridge, Massachusetts, called the Pop Boutique. We work closely with Marva Elaine, who's in Atlanta. They just closed down their store, but they're opening another one in Atlanta and in Chicago. You can also find us in Miami at Adore Therapy. And then we will be opening up in upstate New York at I'm gonna always mess this up. Honey and Petal. I always mess it up. I'm gonna get this right. I promise the next time. We haven't opened there yet. It starts next month. So and we've been out in Palm Springs in California. So we work with various
Yeah.
small boutiques around the country. And you can always find us on Amazon as well. And our
Oh,
website is www.safohair.com. We're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. We've been putting up some really cool content on YouTube, just kind of learning more about my journey, learning more about like what brought me here, what more about the brand. It's a little bit more personal and intimate on YouTube. So just please check us out on YouTube as well, subscribe, and then follow us
amazing.
on Instagram at Safo Hair.
Safo Hair. I will put all of that in the show notes. And yeah, so thank you. Thank you for joining me. That was an amazing chat.
Yeah, no.
Um, yeah, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening. Like I said, everything will be in the show notes, so you can reach out to Dr. Elena, follow her on Instagram, check out her products. And thank you so much for sharing your story. And
Thank you.
yeah, I will see everybody in the next episode.